graphing ellipses. So before we graph ellipses, we need to learn some vocabulary to go with them. So on here I have two ellipses. One has the long axis along the x-axis. The other one has the long axis along the y-axis. And that is important. Your equation looks different depending on which way it goes. So the long axis is always called the major axis. And here, that would be the y-axis. Okay, so if the long axis is the major axis, then the short axis is the minor axis. And that would be x. Okay, now the points where the ellipse intersects the major axis are called vertices. So that would be these two on the x here, and over here it would be on the y. How do you say them? Vertices. If it's one, it's a vertex. If it's more than one, they're vertices. Okay, now we have intersection points on the shorter axis as well. Those are called the covertices. Now there's a lot of stuff on this. Now, there's one more point that we need to be aware of. We have a focus on every ellipse, and actually there's two of them, so we call them foci. So the foci are always inside that one and that one. And they are always on the major axis. Yes.
And it can be anywhere on that line? Or
It can be, they're going to be in a specific place on that line. Now, I'm going to go back and we use specific letters to label each one of these. So that when we look at the formula, stuff is going to make sense. Okay, so the foci we use, what was that? Foci we use C. So this would be negative C0 and C0 for the foci if it's on the x-axis. If it's on the y-axis, it would be 0, C, and 0, negative C. So C is what we use for the foci. For the vertices on the major axis, we're going to use the letter A. So this point, when it's the major axis is on the x-axis, this would be the point A0. And on the other end, it would be negative A0. When the vertices on the major axis are on the y-axis, x-axis, it would be 0, negative a, and 0a. And finally, we use a and c, so that leaves b in the middle. So for our covertices, we're going to use the letter b. So when the covertices are on the y-axis, this is 0b and 0, negative b. And over here it's on the x-axis, so it would be negative b, 0, and b. Okay, lots of stuff there. Questions?
What did you say the A was called?
The A is for the vertices.
And the C is for the
Foci. So C is for the foci, A is for the vertices, B is for the covertices. Okay? Major axis is the long one, the minor axis is the short one. Now, I do want to take, you don't have to draw this picture, but I do want to take a minute and just talk about, in fact, maybe I'll sketch me another ellipse. Talk about what it is that the foci do. And like I said, you don't even need to put this one in your notes, but I want to show you. Okay, if I have a focus here and a focus here, and actually, if you want to draw a picture of an ellipse, you can do this with a string. You take the distance from this focus to some point on the ellipse, and the distance from that point back to the other focus. And so that's on my ellipse, so I sketch my ellipse through there. If I pick a different point on my ellipse, this is D1, and this is D2. Pick a different point. Pick it over here. And then this time, this would be D1, and this is D2. If I add D1 plus D2, it's equal to a constant. So here's where the string comes in. If I have a string of a certain length, I put 2 nails in a board. And I have a string of a length that's longer than between those 2 nails. And I pull that string out tight with my pencil, and I move it around and keep it tight and go all the way around, it will draw an ellipse. Okay, so if I take the distance from one focus out to the ellipse and back again, doesn't matter where I pick the point, it could be right up here. When I add those 2 distances together, it's always the same. So that's how the focus works with us. Questions on that?
That seems difficult.
Yeah.
It's just an idea, and like I say, I'm not going to have you do anything with that. I just want you to be aware of what they are and why they're included. So, now let's look at what we have here. If I have an ellipse with the major axis on the x-axis, then its general equation is x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. And c squared, that 1 for the foci, is equal to a squared minus b squared. So if I know my a squared and my b squared, I can figure out my c squared by subtracting a squared and b squared. Now, since c squared always has to be a positive number, a is always going to be greater than b. And that's how you're going to keep track of which one's a and which one's b. The bigger one's always a. So if I look at this other one with the major axis on the y-axis, it's going to be almost the same. except for it's going to be x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. And this part still holds true. It's exactly the same. C squared still equals a squared minus b squared, and a is always greater than b. So when you look at these, you get them in a standard form, which means it's going to be equal to 1, which is different than a circle, right? Now this is similar to a circle. X squared plus y squared equals a number, right? But we have it over these, and it's always equal to 1. That's the difference with an ellipse. And so ellipse is almost like a circle, except for the two radii aren't the same. It's like a circle with a stretched out radius one direction or the other. Okay? So let's look at an example and see how this all works. Actually, it gets a little easier with the numbers and with all the letters. Okay, so this is an equation of an ellipse. Now here's how I know. Now remember, if it was a parabola, I have an x squared or a y squared, but not both, right? If it's a circle, I had an x squared and a y squared, but you'll notice here I have this one is 4x squared and this is 25y squared. If the number times the x squared and y squared is different, you know it's going to be an ellipse. Okay? If that was both times 4, then it would still be a circle. You divide everything by 4 and do what we did for today. So since I recognize that I have an x squared and a y squared, their coefficients are different, I say, okay, this has got to be an ellipse. I want to put it in standard form. Well, standard form means it's equal to 1. So how am I going to make that equation equal to 1? What are you going to do? I want to make this 1 right here. What do I divide by? Divide by 100. Because the 1 at the end has to be 1. This is what has to be 1. I'm going to divide by 100. Does that make sense? So it equals 1. Now I want to simplify each one of these fractions. So the x squared isn't going to change, but I have 4 over 100. So yeah, 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 100 25 times, so it's going to be x squared over 25. Okay, this one, 25 goes into 25 once, 25 goes into 100 4 times, I get y squared over 4. Now it's in standard form for an ellipse. So let's write down that standard form again so we can remember and look at it while we're working with this. Now first thing you do is you look at it and say, okay, once I get it equal to 1, which number is bigger? It's the one under the x squared, so that's my a squared. So I say x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. So if that's the case, I match them up. A squared equals 25. So A equals plus or minus 5. Square root of 25.
The answer.
What's that?
So we write the answer.
So, yep. Now, well, I've got that one. Let's plot those points. If it's under the x squared, it's going to be on the x-axis. So if A is plus or minus 5, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have the point 5, 0. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have the point negative 5, 0. Those are my vertices, because they're the longer ones. That's the A. Took the square root of 25. A squared is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So Everybody follow that? Okay. Think about everything squared here. So now I'm going to find my b. Well, I look here. I match these two up. B squared equals 4. So b equals plus or minus 2. Took the square root of 4, and I get plus or minus 2. That's on the y-axis. So I'm going to start from the center. I'm going to go up and down on the y-axis. So I go 0 plus 2. So I get the point 0, 2. I go from 0, 0, minus 2. And I get 0, negative 2. And that's all the points for my, that I need to actually sketch my ellipse. I can go, and we're going to, like we did with the circles, I'm not grading your artwork here, but try to make it as much like an ellipse as you can. Mine isn't real symmetric there. A little better. Something like that. Okay? So the important thing is, and when we grade these, I'm going to be saying the vertices are plus or minus 5, 0. Covertices are 0, plus or minus 2. So a good way to label those on the side would be the vertices are plus or minus 5, 0. Covertices, C for covertices, is 0, capital C, because we don't want to confuse it with the foci. 0 plus or minus 2. So we got 4 points there. Now, the thing we haven't found yet are the foci. So, we go back to our original equation. And we have a squared was 25, b squared was 4, and we know that c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So a squared is 25, so c squared equals 25 minus b squared is 4. So c squared equals 21. So c is plus or minus square root of 21. Now, just like we did with the radii on the circles, if we're going to graph these, we have to have a decimal approximation. So you're going to put that in your calculator. Say square root of 21. What is it, 4.6? Mm-hmm. So, which is approximately 4.6. Now, which axis is it going to be on? Always the longer one. So it's on the x-axis. So you go from the center and you go 1, 2, 3, 4.6. So it's really close to the vertex. I have 4.60 in that direction and negative 4.6.
I don't like this problem. They're messy.
And there's a lot to them. There's a lot of stuff there. So the foci would be the last thing that I'm going to be grading, and that would be plus or minus 4.6. So you have to get it on the right axis, and you have to get it the right label. Okay? Questions? Nope. Just the right amount of work. This is what the course is. We aren't in freshman anymore. Got to make things a little more interesting. Okay, so let's look at one more, and then I'm going to turn you loose with these. Okay, I have 25x squared plus 9y squared equals 225. What is the first thing I need to do?
Divide by 225.
Divide by 225, because it has to be equal to 1. So, how many times does 25 go into 225?
5. No, just kidding. 9.
9. So 25 goes in there once. It goes in there 9 times, so I get x squared over 9. So if that's the case, how many times does 9 go into 225? 25. squared over 25.
Look who decided to show up.
Equals 1.
Okay.
I haven't shown up this one.
So, just in time to learn how to graph an ellipse. Now, you look at this and you say, okay, the bigger number is under the y squared this time, so that's where the a squared is going to go, otherwise everything is the same. So this general form would be x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. So when you look at that, we're looking at our major axis here. So I would say a squared equals 25. So if I take the square root of a squared, what's that? Plus or minus 5. So a equals plus or minus 5. But this time it's on the y-axis. So we go over here to our graph. We start from the center and you go up 5. And so that's the point 0, 5. And you go down 5. And that's the point 0, negative 5. So now we need to find the b squared. It's matching, our covertices are on the x-axis this time, just because it's smaller. So I say b squared equals 9. So what does b equal? Plus or minus 3, so it's not 9. Said it right, got it wrong. Okay, so then we're going to count on the x-axis from the center. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 the other way. And we have enough information to sketch our ellipse.
I just have a question.
Yes.
I was doing this a little bit ahead,
Mm-hmm.
and I got my a squared to be 3 and another one to be a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good?
Now a squared, you have to go back to the original product, because the a is 5 and the b is 3, so the a squared is 25 and the b squared is 9. So in finding the foci, I say c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So you go back to your original equation and you just, here's the deal, just pick the bigger numbers. 25 is the bigger one, so that would be 25 minus 9 up here. So 25 minus 9 is 16, so c squared equals 16, so c is going to be plus or minus 4. Now this time, where are my foci on? Which axis? The y. So I go to the center and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get the point 0, 4. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get the point 0, negative 4. So the things I'm going to be looking for when we correct this one, my vertices are 0 plus or minus 5, always the longer ones. My covertices on the x-axis are plus or minus 3, 0. And my foci back on the y-axis for this one are 0 plus or minus 4. So those are the things I'm going to be looking for. Questions?
Can we take a nap?